Did you know that Camp Auschwitz was one of the most dangerous and highly organized death camps in our history? In this location, over 1.25 million Jewish people died, and over 100,000 were made into slave laborers. Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Aguilar, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Holocaust, an important event in our world history. Maybe through listening to me today, you can learn more details for yourself and be a little bit more knowledgeable like I became. I believe that through research for this project, I actually know a lot more about our history than I had known in the past. I'm going to be talking to you about three main points today. The first being the time frame, location, and events of the Holocaust. The second, an important individual, Adolf Hitler, his background and his beliefs. And thirdly, those persecuted, such as the Jews, and what they encountered. My first point, the time frame and location of the Holocaust, begins January 30th, 1933, centralized in Germany, and actually spread throughout Central and Eastern Europe before its end on May 8th, 1945. Some sources, like the United States Holocaust Museum, state that the Jewish population of Europe stood at almost 9 million, and they lived in countries that Nazi Germany would later occupy in World War II. After the Holocaust, however, they say 2 out of every 3 Jewish people were killed, greatly decreasing the population. However, other sources like the World Almanac claim that these numbers do not add up, and in truth, there was actually a growth of almost 450,000 Jewish people at this time. This conflicts with accusations that the German government were at fault for the death of roughly 6 million Jews during this time period. Now that I've discussed the time frame of the Holocaust, I want to discuss an important individual by the name of Adolf Hitler. This is my second point. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889, in a small Austrian town near the German border. He grew up in a very rough and strict household with an alcoholic father who was really known for his physical abuse. He had one protector, which was his mother, and it's actually said that he carried around a picture of him for most of his life until her death when he was 18. It was said in school he didn't have many friends. He didn't excel in many topics other than art, which he loved. He actually wanted to become an artist. He was thought to be lazy and not very social. After his mother died when he was 18, he was rejected by the Vienna Academy of Art. With hardly any means to support himself, he lived in a doss house where he shoveled snow. It was during this time frame where he developed his hatred for the Jews. He blamed them for all of the failures in his life, including his rejection from the art school and the death of his mother. He actually thought the doctors were Jews. Adolf Hitler committed suicide on April 30th, 1945, by swallowing a cyanide capsule and shooting himself with a pistol to avoid Russian capture. Adolf Hitler believed in a national community of racially pure people. He believed that he needed to reform the world to be pure Germans, and anyone who was not in line with his beliefs, he believed needed to be exterminated. He actually thought that it was his duty to do so. He didn't believe in democracy. He believed in one individual, almost godlike person to lead and have people follow, and he thought that of himself. He believed that a big part of history is war, and he actually found that exciting. Now that you've learned about Adolf Hitler's history and his beliefs, we can talk about some of those persecuted by his beliefs. This is my third point, the Jewish people. Although they were not the only people prosecuted by Adolf Hitler, they were among the largest groups. The most well-known location for the prosecution was Camp Auschwitz. They were at the hands of whatever the German people wanted to do to them. One example of what they endured were gas chambers. Women, children, and men were lined up to go into the gas chambers. They didn't know what was coming. They didn't know they were about to die. Most of the time, they were under the impression that they were going to take showers or be sanitized before entering the camp. What they would do was have them undress fully in the middle of the courtyard, go into these chambers, and be locked in and killed. Then they would have more of the slaves pull them out, remove anything valuable from them. They even removed the women's hair and used it for things like blankets and socks. Another thing that they had to go through were medical experimentations such as freezing experiments. This is where they would get some of the Jewish people and submerge them in cold, freezing water for hours at a time. The doctors did this to test how long German pilots could actually survive if they were dropped into the North Sea. More than 300 prisoners were experimented on, 80 to 90% of them dying. Some other experiments that were done were high altitude experiments, tuberculosis experiments, and seawater experiments. In conclusion, the Holocaust is actually a major part of our world history. Today I spoke about 3 different points: the time frame, location, and events of the Holocaust, Adolf Hitler, his background and his beliefs, and some of those persecuted and how they were persecuted. Hopefully, through education of the past, we will learn to be more educated of what might come in the future. Thank you.